Hello YouTube, I'm today making another video for you guys. In today's video, I'll be announcing the results for my most recent contest, the flying themed contest. So for this contest, I got 4 entries. I'll go through and give my opinion on each of them in no particular order. So the first one I'll be talking about is a game called Flying by Vec. So in this game, you have to tap up and maneuver around enemies and try and fly as far as possible without dying. So something I liked about it was the aesthetic of it. I thought it had a very nice look to it, like it had a unified color palette, and the music and the look all complemented each other. In addition, you had a cool shadow effect with the player and the birds that fly down at you, which I thought was also well done. You told me later that it was all computer generated, which doesn't have any effect on the rating, but I thought that was neat that you made it without having any sprites and generated it all with the computer. So he also included an INI file so that it would keep track of the data every time you play, so your high score would remain consistent. And also I liked how you did the tapping up. It wasn't just continuously tap up to go or to go upwards. It was tap it in a particular rhythm to get it to work, which I thought increased the quality of the game. So some things I didn't like about it. Like I said, the control scheme was a little bit different than just tapping up. So when I was first playing it, I didn't know the controls, so I just continuously tapped up to try and survive, and it didn't work. And it took me several deaths until I realized how it was supposed to work. You did have the controls, but it didn't show up on the, it would show on the startup screen and the death screen, but they didn't show up until like 5-6 seconds after you're on that screen, and usually you're not on that screen that long. Usually you're kind of ready to play the game and you're already pressing buttons to get started. So in my case, it's a little bit frustrating that I didn't get to see the controls until I had already died several times. Another thing, this isn't really a con, but I felt like the way you did the background was very, the way it was made was a parallax effect would have fit very well with it, the way you had the layering mountains. So I felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity to have a parallax effect. You can look up, there's probably a tutorial online about how to make a parallax background. I might make one myself. And the other thing was the difficulty curve. So the difficulty was relatively even the whole way through. I noticed it getting quite a bit more difficult around like 700 points or so, but for the most part it's just easy, and it doesn't really get increased more difficult, which kind of makes the game less entertaining. You want to have it consistently get more difficult to keep the person engaged, or consistently keep adding new things, because it was just the same in the beginning. So that was one of my problems with it. Next game I'd like to talk about is Silence by Zach Yancey. So this was, I guess, a space exploration game, and one of the cool things I thought was this is the first entry in any of my contests that was not made in GameMaker. This was made in Unity, and it's in full 3D, so that was kind of neat to have something different like that. So the graphics look good, the images you used all look very well, and the I don't know how hard this is to do in 3D, but I noticed that the space texture you used was seamless, which I thought was neat. You also featured 2 different modes. One mode where you're flying around space, and another mode where it's like an FPS exploring the spaceships. So my problems with it was it wasn't really a game. It was a small world that you could explore a little bit. And you told me it wasn't finished, and that shows, but as is, it's not really a game, because it's just, like I said, just you have the space, you have 2 spaceships, and 2 spaceships aren't very big, and there's no particular thing that you are there for. It's there aren't really any game mechanics, so that's a big problem. Next game I'm going to talk about is Skyline by Rootbeer Gamer 64. He actually submitted Verboten Castle in my previous contest, if you remember that. So, and this is a platformer game. I guess you run around the world. There are different guns you can get, and you need to use them to get through the different mazes, I guess, and you shoot through barriers to get further. That's a horrible explanation, but that's kind of the gist of it, I suppose. So some of the things I liked about it, you had 2 mechanics. You had the normal platforming, running around, jumping, and you had a flying mechanic, and you're able to switch between them, which I thought was kind of neat. And not only that, but you made them both necessary. So with the flying, you can fly around, so you can navigate areas much better, and you can also shoot things when you're flying. And when you're walking, you can move faster. So I thought it was cool that you kind of implemented that into level design, where you kind of had to switch between them. Another thing I liked was you kind of tried to implement a storyline in there, or some sort of narrative, which I thought was neat. Like in the beginning of the game, you start out in the player's house, and then an asteroid comes down, and the asteroid's where the player gets the flying powers, and I assume that kind of develops further as you play further in the game. Another thing I liked was there are lots of features. I didn't play through the whole thing, but there was at least you had at least 5 or 6 guns implemented in the game. They're all different and had their different pros and cons. And also, you implemented a rumble effect, so the screen would shake whenever you used a particularly heavy-duty gun, or when the asteroid fell down in the beginning, the screen also shook, which I thought was a nice touch and made it look a little bit more cinematic and all that, which I thought was nice. The thing I didn't like about it was the lag. You also mentioned to me that there was an optimization issue. I think that you probably didn't get rid of the particles. The particles just kept piling up, and that made the game lag eventually. And that was actually the reason I wasn't able to get all the way through it, because there was the 3rd level where I died several times, and it just started getting too slow, and I couldn't get through it. That level might be, I'm still not sure how you're supposed to beat it. I'm guessing you're supposed to switch between the flying and the walking efficiently to get through it, and I also assume that it works a lot smoother if there's no lag. So yeah, that's an issue, and it just goes to show that being a little bit careless with optimization and glitches can hurt your game a lot. The next game I'd like to talk about is Flying Ninja by Dimbata, or Dimbata. I'm not really sure. His YouTube channel, he wanted to mention, his YouTube channel is Just Random Guys 23. I believe he does Minecraft tutorials and that kind of thing, along with a little bit of League of Legends. So his game, it's called Flying Ninja, is another game similar to the flying game that I mentioned originally, the first game I talked about. It's similar in that you're going through a world and you need to move up and down using the up button to dodge enemies and that sort of thing. So some things I liked about it: you had some extra mechanics in addition to just the moving up and down through the world. In the beginning, it's a platformer, and you have to get a running start to start flying. And also, there are a lot of different enemies. You have to shoot. You can shoot things, and there are a lot of enemies flying at you. And you need to collect. You can collect coins and diamonds to increase your score and that sort of thing. So I liked how the amount of mechanics you had, and you also had a health bar, a progress bar, and a speed meter. So that was all cool that you had those all wrapped in there somehow. There were some nice graphics effects. I also liked that he has nice graphics effects thrown in there. The sprites were good, and I noticed that whenever you shot the bird, you had some feathers fly out there, which I thought was cool. And when you got hit by things, there was a nice red gradient around you, which I felt looked kind of nice. So some things I did not like about it was during the platforming section. So there's the platforming section and then there's the flying section. But during the platforming section, it was a little bit glitchy. Like the panning background didn't work very smoothly, and there were times when I'd try and run and then it'd just stop. And then if you run into the wall, there's a scenario where you fly upwards. I guess not too bad because that only makes a small portion of the game, but that portion didn't really feel that smooth. And let's see. In addition, with the shooting mechanic, the gunshots weren't very big, and the birds are flying at you very fast. So there really wasn't any way that I could try and aim at the birds because, for one thing, the bullets weren't very big, so I had to be very precise. For another thing, the birds were flying at me very fast, so I didn't really have time to react. So I kind of just shot hoping that I hit something, so I feel like that needed to be changed a little bit to make that, I guess, easier to use, but as is, you really can't aim at all. Yes, so that was Flying Ninja. So now for the verdict. The way I'm gonna go through this, I'm gonna go through this the way I decided on it. So it won't necessarily be in the order of the placement. So first off, Silence. I'm sorry, but that game was last because it wasn't really a game. It was really just a small world you could walk around. You mentioned that you spent more time on the assets and the look of it as opposed to the actual game mechanics, and you felt like you probably should have spent more time on game mechanics, and I agree with you there. Game mechanics would have been an important addition to this, and it could have helped you out greatly. So because of there not being really any game mechanics, that's why you got 4th place. So sorry about that. I look forward to seeing how the game turns out in the end. So next, 1st place, I'm going to give Skyline, because I like the amount of features you had in there. You had all of the different guns, you had the different modes, I guess, with platforming and flying, and you also tried to add a little bit of a narrative in there, which I really liked. I felt like you tried a lot of new things there. And you told me you were hoping that you would that I would see improvement compared to your other game, and I'd say there definitely was improvement compared to your last game. So that's good that you keep getting better and better, and that's the way to go. So you get 1st pick on the 3 games. Those games are Cairo, Chivalry, and Dust. So you can watch the, I guess, introductory video to get another look at those games, or you can look them up, and yes, I will message you asking you about that later. So that leaves me with 2nd and 3rd place, a decision between Flying Ninja and Flying. This was a harder decision because the games are very similar. They both involve moving through an area, or I guess a hall, and tapping up to stay up in the air and dodge things. So let me try and compare and contrast them. So Flying, I felt like the aesthetic was better. Like, comparing the two, I thought Flying looked better. It was a little bit more minimalist, but it had a unified color palette, and it all looked, the look of it was very nice. So I feel like for aesthetics, the Flying wins there, whereas Flying Ninja looked a little bit more cluttered in the way the graphics looked. And then in Flying Ninja, where I felt like that one excelled was the number of mechanics they had. So the running start was an extra thing, which made it more interesting, and they had a bunch of birds fly at you. You have the score, you can shoot, and the birds come in different directions, which is all good. Whereas in Flying, the birds come at you always from above, and there isn't very much variance in how they come at you and all that. So I feel like for the amount of mechanics, I feel like Flying Ninja wins there. And then so the thing that kind of broke the tie was the difficulty curve, I think. So, well, and the mechanics I feel like the mechanics outweigh the aesthetics, and in addition, Flying Ninja had the difficulty curve, which it got a little bit more difficult as time went on, whereas I felt like Flying just kind of got boring after a while, because it's kind of the same thing for the first minute or so of playing the game. So because of those distinctions, I award Flying Ninja 2nd and Flying 3rd. So dimbata, you will receive 2nd choice of the game, and again, I will message you about that. And Vec, you'll receive 3rd choice. So other than that, congratulations to everybody. Thank you very much for participating, and leave a comment so I know that you saw this. So once I see the comment there, that's when I'll message you, because I want to make sure that this is the first place where you saw the result and don't get the message beforehand. So yes, thank you all very much for participating. I look forward to seeing you guys in future tutorials and future contests. Thank you very much.